above. When I stretch out my hand and smile, when I live from above.
There you go.
Welcome again to Sunday service, and welcome to those joining us online. This is a reading from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita, written by Swami Kriya-yoga, based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. This week's reading is entitled Reincarnation, the Spiral Staircase. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. In the book of Revelation, chapter 3, Jesus Christ tells us, "Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out." There is a difference between church dogmas, which are based on reasoned deductions from scriptural statements, and pronouncements of wisdom, which are based on the inner realization of scriptural truths. Reason, like a train, can only follow already existing tracks of human experience. Human memory, being short, is seldom able to cross back over the threshold of a person's present existence. Biblical references to previous lifetimes on earth are overlooked in the deductive process, and we find them therefore excluded from the body of official dogma. Nevertheless, such references exist. The Bible itself presents them, as does Jesus in this passage, not as abstract teaching, but as direct personal perception of truth. In the same way, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita silences Arjuna's reasonable doubts on the subject, not by reasoned argument, but by the frank statement contained in the 4th chapter of that great scripture. Arjuna, you and I have passed through many births. I know all of them, though you, O chastiser of foes, recall them not. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
Good morning, everyone. Swami Kriyananda was giving a class on reincarnation. This was some decades ago. And after the class, he heard two of the ladies who had been in the class talking with each other as they were leaving. And one said to the other one, "Did you hear what he said? We get to come back." And Swami was like, "Oh, if you only knew." We get to come back so that we can learn that pain is an interval between two pleasures, and pleasure is an interval between two pains. And as we learn this through repetition, endless repetition, we start to experience what Yogananda calls the anguishing monotony. The anguishing monotony. So how do we get off this wheel of birth, life, death, rebirth, repeat, and repeat, and repeat? How do we get off of that? Well, Yogananda in the Second Coming of Christ has a wonderful way of putting it. Immortal souls, that's us, can only expect to be free by utterly destroying the seeds of earthly desires. utterly destroying the seeds of earthly desires. And how do we do that? By divine contact with God through meditation. Not easy to come by, but that's how we do it. We have to have divine contact with God through meditation. And this contact reminds the soul of the unending fulfillment, which is our immortal inheritance. That inheritance is bliss. And this bliss, Yogananda says, makes desires for earthly ways unnecessary and ridiculous. Isn't that great? So here's another thing that he says. So how did we get into this predicament? Why are we here? Yogananda answers this too. Good or bad judgment has created our good or bad habits, which in turn create good or bad tendencies, which go on life after life. So the origin of all evil, which is to say all misery, all suffering, is bad judgment. You made the wrong choice at the wrong time, and that's what landed us here. And it's fascinating on the spiritual path. I found this very liberating when I first heard it, but it can be kind of depressing too. So the truth of it is that nobody is to blame, nothing is to blame for our circumstances. We created it all ourselves. There's a saying that I heard, we don't get to vote on what happens today because we already voted on that yesterday. So let's vote today for a good tomorrow, full of joy, full of peace, by being kind, by being compassionate, by being loving, by being even-minded. I've often thought the greatest distraction in life is worldliness, right? Materialism. And what could be more concentrated than the cell phone? It's just a constant distraction. And I have read on the phone, reading the news, that every time we get an email, the brain goes, ooh, an email, little dopamine rush comes in, little, excitement. And we're programmed, we want that. We're just like Pavlov's little dogs that want to, react to whatever the stimulus is. So that dopamine rush, we have to understand it. Intellectually, fine, but viscerally, we need to know. Don't fall for that. That is just a little dopamine rush. And don't say, I'll just eat a cookie instead. Don't say that. But go outside, take a walk, enjoy the beauty of nature. That's a good dopamine hit. So we're also wired as a human being. We're wired to look out for danger, right from watch out for the saber-toothed tiger all the way up until God only knows about the nuclear situation in the world. There's always that we need to know what's out there that's going to hurt us. There's that hardwired in again. Why do the news channels always put the scariest news up front? Why do they word it in such a way that it's a threat, that it's a problem, that it's a whatever? Because that's what gets the hits. That's what we instinctively go for. Let me read the problem so I can be prepared for it. Never mind that the sun is shining, that the sky is blue today, that we can be in peace. We can give more towards world peace if we are even-minded, if we are cheerful, if we are loving, if we are thinking about God. I'm not saying to bury our heads like ostriches and just not be aware of anything, but I'm telling myself to get off the phone. A friend of mine who went on the Italy pilgrimage with us very sweetly said in our group text that I was following continuously, she said, "Friends, I check my emails twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening for a few minutes. So forgive me if I'm a little late in answering." And I thought, what a concept. What a brilliant thing to do, to think about something else besides the world's problems, which God knows there are many, but guess what? There have always been many. That's the way of the world. Whether it's the Saracens storming down from the north, or it's, what are those, the Vandals and the
Visigoths.
The Visigoths and the Vandals. Bob Dylan wrote, "The Vandals took the handles." You know. They're all these hordes, the marauding hordes, whether they are the Visigoths or whether they're commercials, they're always trying to steal our attention, our peace of mind. Be the captain of your own soul. Be the one to choose. Make that choice not to be so distracted, but to fill your mind with the thought of peace, of God, of joy. I read a study some time ago that was saying, basically we have a sphere of influence. It could be just ourselves and our spouse, or ourselves and two friends, or ourselves and our family of maybe 50. Or it could be bigger. It could be our workplace, our extended family, the clubs we belong to, the other people that we see, the whatever. It could be out into the hundreds or even the thousands. We have that responsibility to be a good role model, to pattern right behavior to our whole sphere of influence. It could just be the people we meet at the grocery store. If we're angry, if we're withdrawn, if we're grumpy, if we huff and puff and storm out, whatever we do, it's putting out a vibration into the world. That's how we change the world. We have more influence than we realize. Let's take advantage of that and be in the center, not blown away by this news or this person's attitude or that person's attitude. We were in Seattle recently, last weekend, and we were talking with some very dear friends and other acquaintances we hadn't seen sometimes in decades. And, you know, it's always Ananda, wherever you go. It's just blissfully, even if the little particulars are different, the energy is the same. And at one point, one of the people who's hard of hearing didn't hear someone saying something to him. And they said his name several times. And finally it was like, what? You know, he did a little huff. And the person was not influence in the slightest. There was no, well, I've been trying to get your attention. There's nothing like that. It was just no ripple, just even-minded consciousness. And she just said what she was trying to say very calmly with a loving voice. And the other person stood down. Okay, there wasn't anything to hit against. And so there wasn't an escalation. There was just peace. And I just admired this person so much for not being affected. Don't be affected by what people do or what they say or what they leave on the kitchen counter. Just let it be. Be at peace in yourself. And work towards the attitude of, okay, this really is not a good thing that's happening to me. Okay, let's just say that I'm paying off some karma. Maybe a whole lot of karma. That's good, isn't it? The sooner I'll be back with God. Okay, I won't say bring it on, but I will say thank you for this opportunity to be like my friend who is just even-minded no matter what comes. There's a story that a friend of mine in India told many, many years ago, and I've always remembered this. I assume it's apocryphal, but it might have actually happened. I don't know for sure. So there was a young Indian woman who got married and went to live in the house of her husband and his family. And they were very wealthy. So this young woman wanted for nothing. She had beautiful clothes, wonderful food, travel, whatever she wanted. She could avail herself of any luxury. So life went on like this for some time, and then her own mother and father came to visit. And they're sitting around with all the extended family, and just sort of as an oratorial question, her mother says, so how are they treating you, my dear, knowing that she's living in this luxury? And the girl is very quiet for a moment, and then she says, well, it's all very nice here, but Mother, they are serving me stale food. Well, you can imagine the shock that goes through the whole family. The mother-in-law is like beside herself, and the girl's husband goes, but dear, we give you the best of everything. Everything is fresh and wonderful. And she's still very poised, but she says, yes, that's true. But what I mean is that we have this good karma to have beautiful surroundings, everything we need, we want for nothing. But that's the old karma from past lives. What have we done in this life to create fresh, tasty karma for the future? Where is the kindness, the compassion, the generosity that created what we have so that we can create that again in the future? And so then the family understood and they changed their ways. But we have to think in broader terms. We have to step back and get a better perspective on what our lives are. And the more that we think, oh, that's terrible that I have to deal with this, and that person, why is he so this or that, or why is anything the way it is? One man's meat is another man's poison, as they say. What bothers one person would just be fantastic to another person. Hard to believe, because we have our own likes and dislikes. But this is a very important thing that we can do, that we can actually do in this life, is to start shedding those likes and dislikes. I like the color blue. I like being a female or being a male or being a astrophysicist, whatever it is, there's little ropes of ego that are attached to that. Think instead, I am a free soul. I am an immortal soul. My nature is bliss. I've just made some bad decisions, bad judgments, and I've gotten to this point. But let's remember what Swami said, what Master said to Swami. It takes very, very, very good karma to even want to know God, to even be here in this room. It takes extremely good karma. When you think of the millions of lives that it's taken us to get to this point, we just have a very short way to go. Very short. We just have to remember the things that our Guru has told us. Get rid of likes and dislikes. I was reading about Ashtavakra, an ancient sage, and I've recited these words many times. See if I can remember them. Direct quote from him. God made all things. There is only God. Okay? So the floor, the table, the cup, each of us, it's only God that exists. He made everything out of himself. He didn't have anything else to use. So God made all things. There is only God. Knowing this, desire melts away. Why desire something? It's only God. Just desire God. Knowing this, desire melts away. Clinging to nothing, you become still. We often wonder in meditation, why am I so restless? And my knees hurt and my foot hurts. And clinging to nothing, no desires, no body consciousness, no likes and dislikes, clinging to nothing, you become still. And as we know from the Bible, we need to be still and know that I am God. So let's bear that in mind. We are very close to liberation. Have that expectation in your mind. Every time you meditate, think, this could be the day. Come to me, God. Come to me now. Come to me as light, as joy, as bliss. Remember Yogananda's words. When we feel that bliss, which is our true nature, the desires of this world, the earthly ways, as he put it, are unnecessary and ridiculous. So live more in that thought. We are his alone for all eternity. This is just, as St. Teresa of Avila said, one night in a very bad hotel. Thank you for laughing at my joke. Okay, I'm going to end with a really quick joke. And this is from Ramakrishna, so you have to laugh at the end of it. All right, so a politician and a clergyman both die, and they go to heaven, and they meet Jesus. And Jesus welcomes them, very happy you're here. Let me show you to your houses. First, we'll walk over to where the clergyman has his house, and then we'll walk on to the politician's house. So they get to the clergyman's house, and it's a little one-bedroom, small little house. And the clergyman goes inside, and Jesus says, this is where your house will be for all eternity now. And then they walk on, and they get into a slightly better neighborhood. And they finally get to the politician's house, and it's a mansion. And the butler comes out to greet them, and all the staff, the cook, the chef, everybody, the gardeners. And the politician turns to Jesus and says, how come I have such a nice house? The clergyman has dedicated his whole life to you, and how do I deserve the mansion? And Jesus said, well, we get a lot of clergymen in here, but you're the first politician we've ever had. So we rolled out the red carpet for you. Thank you.
Swami talked about reincarnation in an interesting way. He was trying to help us understand why do we reincarnate, and Nirmala touched on this. It's desire, sort of repeated, makes us have to come back to learn lessons, etc. But Swami described it in a specific way. He said two words, two things bring us back: longing and regret. And if you think about it, longing would be that which I feel the lack of, and didn't find the relationship, didn't have whatever it was in my life. And regret is often associated with something that we did, or more frequently, something that we didn't do. Usually people, I've read stories of people who, hospice workers, people who deal with end of life, and they talk with people who are getting near their transition and repeat the stories or the sort of general themes, and much more often people regret, I never told her that I loved her, or I never took the chance, or I stayed in the job that I shouldn't have stayed in my whole life, or whatever. It's like I didn't do the thing that I could have done that might have changed things. And of course, then sometimes we make mistakes and we regret the mistake. But it's those two things, longing and regret. And we don't get away from that by wishing it away. And it's an interesting theme, or it's an interesting question. And Nirmala was touching on part of that pathway, which is not to sort of deny it or try to affirm it away in a vague way, but to take specific steps. And I've been reading the Raja Yoga book on audio to create the recording for the audio book. And so I've obviously been reading the book, you might say, like out loud. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to go through it page by page, word by word, because there is so much in it, so many points that, you get them while you're reading it to a certain extent, but it is it's so condensed, and there is so much there, 455 pages. I'm on page 291, I believe, right now. So I've got a little ways to go still. But Swamiji emphasized that it is actual energy, the actual movement of energy. That is what creates a positive habit, replaces a bad habit, that changes our consciousness. He talked about this especially in the two affirmations chapters, in which he's discussing chanting and affirmation. Chanting is half the battle, is an aphorism that Yogananda referred to many times. But it's that same thing. And this chant that we sang, mm-hmm. Well, both chants actually, door of my heart, open wide, I keep for thee. If we think of all the longing or all the regret in life, and just as Nirmala was saying, think of it not so much in terms of it's mine and I own it, but rather it came through me, it passed through me, then it doesn't hold us, or it doesn't hold us so much. And if we chant and repeat the words, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He, again and again and again, it starts to penetrate, it starts to repeat in our minds. And we don't think, oh, I'm the loser, or I'm the whatever, whatever, however, or even that I'm the politician who got to heaven. I'm the rare one. I mean, it's because it's just as easy to fall into the trap of, oh, didn't I do good? Fine, you did good. Or, I failed. Or, it's like both ways. It's still about I, my, me, mine. And I was reflecting on the key, the sort of the linchpin to this is, what role are we playing? And whose script is it? Because it's easy to think, well, I'm the actor. Surely I know how to play my part. Well, not necessarily if we don't follow the script. This is one of the mantras that Devaki would teach us when she was directing a play. And another one was, pick up your cues. Like when it's time for you to speak, get in there and do it. Don't leave a, sort of pregnant pause, waiting for something to happen. It's like, no, jump on it, get there. And because we all have a role to play, and if we honor that role, and we have to find what that is, it's not like it's not like at birth you're presented with this, little scroll that says, okay, you're going to do this, and then this, and then this. I mean, we have to find it in ourselves, but honor that role. In Kali Yuga, centuries ago, you're born into a position in society, you're born into a role. If your daddy was a blacksmith, you're going to be a blacksmith. It's all determined. You fit into that slot, that's the spot that you occupy, fine. Well, in Dwapara Yuga, it's melted a little bit, it's a little more fluid, it's a little more oozy, but still there's this comfort in knowing, okay, I am where I'm supposed to be in life. I am in a flow that is a good flow. That's a more Dwapara way to look at it. But it's for all of us to feel that and to honor that. I loved how Master, in describing this, play the role that God has given you, he said sometimes the buffoon attracts more attention than the king in the plot. And it's true, I got to play the buffoon a few times in P.G. Wodehouse plays, and my one claim to fame is that in one particular play, because of the costuming and because of the bizarre way that I had to play the part, Swami could not figure out who it was. He had to ask afterwards. I was like, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. But think of our lives as a role that God has given us. Even the name that we wear, it's one of the reasons that people sometimes take a spiritual name. I was born with a name that I thought was spiritual, Peter. I thought, hey, I have a spiritual name. But one fine day, Swami asked me, do you want a spiritual name? And I thought, well, I don't think he would ask me if he didn't think it was a good idea. So yes, I thought I had one, but it's okay. I think it's good to change. And I'll tell you, it does change. It changes your consciousness. How do you respond? Someone calls you a name. It's like, oh, it sort of gets in amongst you on a certain level. So think of, where is God's presence and how can I orient myself towards the divine? I'll give one little suggestion. And it's something that people it's so easy. As Nirmala was saying, it's so easy to just be distracted. Everybody has an excuse. A little kid is growing up. They don't think about God. Teenagers busy with hormones and school and trying to figure out where their life is going. They can't think about God. Young adult, oh my God, marriage, children, job, commotion, they can't think about God. Middle age, middle age crisis, health issues, divorce perhaps, whatever, kids growing up, oh, they can't think about God. Old age, oh my God, my body's falling apart. It's like everybody's got an excuse. It's like nobody, but all of us, just think of this one thing. All of us can just say to the Lord, I love you. Just today itself. Just try to, you think of who you love, you want to spend time with. Who you love, you want to be with. It's the most natural thing in the world. But who thinks of being with God? Nobody thinks of being with God. Hardly anybody in the world. Because there's everything else that's going on in the whole world. The whole world is going on, and it just goes on and on and on. And to the degree that we go on and on and on with it, then we get to keep going on and on and on for as many lifetimes as we want until it drives us crazy. So just that one thought, just say to the Lord, I love you and I want to be with you. And when you sit to meditate, just say that. But obviously try to feel it. It's not just about blah, 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 blah. But say and feel and offer yourself to that one love that has been with us from eternity and will be with us through eternity. Get to know that one love, and every other love in life will find its way most naturally, most organically. And before we do the offertory, I want to just say something about the song that Chaitanya is about to sing. It's very interesting because I just sang the same song last weekend in Seattle. It fit the service that week and it fits the service this week. He's going to sing Through Many Lives. And I want to invite you to feel the spirit of the song, because it expresses the deep longing of the soul after incarnations and incarnations. Just try to feel that as he sings it.
Through many lives I've drunk the cup of laughter. No man could tell the pleasures I have known. The stars in the endless sky, if one could count, would come to billions. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Through many lives I've drunk the cup of sorrow. No man could tell the bitter tears I've shed. The drops in the endless sea, if one could count, would come to billions. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Through countless lives I've sought your cup of sweetness, found other cups, yet thirsted evermore. The streams in the hills of time all found their way into a desert. Every noon of bright fulfillment, ere many hours did sink to evening gloom.
I long for you in summer and in winter, only for you my heart thirsts day and night. I've learned that the sweetest songs ears ever heard were but your echo. Lord, at last fill me completely, for nevermore I'd wander far from you. Lord, at last fill me completely, for nevermore I'd wander far from you.